In anticipation of the U.S. election results, markets were wavering, uneasy and impatient. Today, the pent-up energy is finding its way into the U.S. dollar and stock market. New highs have been seen, and all because of a booming economy. Right? Wrong. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we will talk about the US dollar, the US stock markets, the war on cash, and a host of other issues. Stay tuned. It's going to be a jam-packed episode. Right here, the US dollar index touched near 14-year high on Wednesday, while oil prices fell. A volatile session as traders were caught between, I love this, U.S. stockpiles and a chance of an agreement on an output cut. OPEC is controlling this market. They make it seem no different than when every few months there's the debt ceiling fiasco. And they make this drama for us, this soap opera for us, even though we know behind the scenes they all have this predetermined and predecided. The US stockpiles issue, I've covered it before, but if you're new here, the price of oil went from, let's say, $110 a barrel down to, let's say, $30 a barrel. In that downward swing, the suggestion was that there is too much oil in inventories, and therefore the price needs to come down. It doesn't, inventories don't just pop up out of nowhere. And as well as the fact that you don't get that price to come down that far in that short period of time. It was like, let's say, a year and a half because of inventories. It's BS, it's bull. And I'm simply going to say it every single time when I see it. And then we look at the third paragraph. People with money in the sidelines are looking for a place to put it. They're looking for names that haven't rallied as much as the ones that have rallied and are taking a bit of a breather. This is the type of typical financial analyst speak that you'll hear, looking for those opportunities for growth, looking for basically not necessarily the grade A's, but maybe the grade B's, and they will be potentially lagging behind, and they'll be able to sort of trail behind those big names. This is what they try and do. Sometimes it works, absolutely, but it doesn't look at the fundamental analysis whatsoever. The dollar has surged in the past week, tracking treasury yields higher on the expectation, check this out, that increased government spending, okay, it's going to trigger higher inflation and force the Fed to tighten monetary policy more quickly than expected. They're so far behind. Even if they were to do it 4 times in the next few months, they are still behind. It's ridiculous. These expectations are thrown out of the window. It's a joke. What a joke. All right. The war on cash. Very, very interesting. I've covered the cashless society on here for years. And it is a fact that governments are going cashless and institutions are trying to push for that. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a slow and steady process that will affect everyone. Most notably, 2 days ago, Citibank, yes, that Citibank, announced it was going cashless at some of its Australian branches. This is huge. And essentially what they're saying is that by eliminating cash, they save billions of dollars. Moving to cashless is the next step for the Australian dollar. It's not a conspiracy theory or anything like this. This is what they say. This is February back in this year. They were talking about this. Written by officials from Australia's Department of Treasury. It's not a joke. People need to understand how severe this information is when they decide to go cashless. And what UBS pointed out, demonetizing Australia's $50 and $100 bills would force anyone holding these notes to deposit them back into the banking system. And what a way to get all those cash hoarders to deposit their money in the fraudulent banking system. Perhaps right before they set up a bail-in? Maybe. But maybe they just need some more money. Maybe they need to recapitalize their banking system, and they're using people's money to do so. And the people that want to stuff their money under their mattress, you're not going to be able to do that. You better have a big mattress to store all those $1 bills you're going to need, because they're going to ban every bill they can, and eventually leading to a cashless society. Angela Merkel wants to run, perhaps, possibly, for a 4th term. That's right, a 4th term. And maybe she will, maybe she won't, but it's just interesting. There's a lot of disdain towards her at this time, so I don't know if she can necessarily win. But we know that the elections tend to be fixed anyway, so I don't know what's going to happen. But a 4th term seems like dictatorship to me anyway. Russia to withdraw from the International Criminal Court amid calls for Syria airstrikes investigation. So after what they believe is, criminal injustice in Syria, they basically say, you know what, screw you. We're out of here. Formally, we're going to sign the papers and get the heck out of here. Very interesting, because you can see that tension, definitely tension forming between the West and Russia, and it is not a good thing. EU Commission reveals plans for a, quote, travel tax on British citizens after the Brexit. So that's right. If you want to leave, if you want to enter into other European nations, you have to pay a tax. And just to let you know, it's very small. It was like $5. But it's still the principle that there is this sort of travel tax that's being imposed. And I do see this as travel being taxed in other ways, as you have the different gasoline taxes, and then you have what they will definitely bring in, and that is the tax on every mile driven. And this is going to be something that will in fact take place definitely in the US, and I see it happening for the most part in most major countries, if not all the way through. They're going to be able to do so in the major cities. So this will be an additional tax on people, taxing them for every kilometer or mile they drive. And this would be a way to control, monitor, and of course, profit from those moving around. So you got to live in the big mega cities, which are, have their mass transportation system, so you don't drive your car around. And this really leads to the whole Agenda 21 system, which is being set up for so long now. A global planetary design implemented at the local level. It is the ultimate genius. Twitter suspended high-profile accounts associated with the alt-right movement the same day the social media service said it would crack down on hate speech. And they refer to one individual here. And this is what I wanted to get to. There's an absolute fact here. You are not allowed to call for violence against another person. You're not allowed to say, that person over there, kill that person. You're not allowed to say that. That's called incitement, okay? But you are allowed to have the most inflammatory views in the world. That is your right. That is your freedom of speech. Remember that. There is a line here. You can have any view you want about anybody else, and that cannot be punished. However, you are not allowed to incite violence against a particular person. And that's really where I see things changing, because they are, not in this case necessarily, but in some cases they are removing these Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and everything else for things that I wouldn't say is incitement. And that is when we have the freedom of speech issue that, quite frankly, is being abused at this time. Chinese president called for greater cooperation among nations in developing and governing the internet. And I'll stop there. There's going to be this global governance which takes place. China is going to have a big role in that, perhaps Russia, perhaps other developing nations too. It's not just the US. We see what's happened with the US ceding control of the internet in this case. And it seems to me that there would have to be restrictions on the internet in order to censor. China already does an excellent job in censoring their news, and they will try to continue that, and perhaps the West will learn from China's example here. Sad news. And this whole article is basically about how AI will eventually replace the need for humans, make us second-class citizens. It's going on. We can see that automation and robotics is accelerating to a new level. Then when you include artificial intelligence, it just takes off to this whole new level. And it is, of course, AI. It's learning. So it in itself, on an exponential level, will quickly make us unnecessary. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Check out my book. It's at Amazon. There's this look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.